Hey everybody, it's Andy Kushner, host of The Wedding Biz, and this is another episode of The Next Level, in which a guest co-host and myself discuss some of the biggest highlights of the most recent interview and talk about them in a way that can help you to use them to raise your own business to the next level. And before I introduce today's wonderful guest co-host, I want to mention last week's interview, if you missed it, was Kiana Underwood of Tulipina, one of the premier floral designers in the world with workshops that sell out within minutes, has a wonderful book, and the most Instagram followers of any floral designer in the industry. And my guest co-host on The Next Level to talk about Kiana's interview was Rachel Berthistle of the Lake Como Wedding Planner. It was really incredible. So I highly recommend you check out Kiana's interview and The Next Level with Rachel. So I now want to introduce my wonderful, incredible, illustrious guest co-host of the day, and that is Andre Wells of Events by Andre Wells. And Andre, his productions have been featured and syndicated across major networks and cited in numerous major print and digital publications. Some of his clients include Disney, BET Networks, Alvin Ailey Dance Theater, and CNN, among many, many, many others. He's also done red carpet premieres, Oscar parties, society weddings, and major political fundraisers. Andre works internationally. Andre, welcome to The Next Level.
Thank you, Andy. Glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you. And for those of you listening, Andre's interview himself was on April 8th of 2019. So be sure to go back and check that out. It was really good. Andre, didn't you also get a recent honor? Was it with Biz Bash? You had a really big honor.
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, Biz Bash selected me as one of the top 50 designers in the U.S. So I really appreciate that.
Wow.
It's a great honor to be selected and be among such a talented group of individuals that represent the United States.
Yeah, congratulations. That's great, Andre.
Thank you.
So the guest who Andre and I are going to be talking about is, of course, this week's interview, and that was Mark Ingram of Mark Ingram Atelier, owner of the premier bridal salon catering worldwide to a select clientele, including upscale, sophisticated brides and celebrities from the stage and screen, as well as the who's who of New York society and the fashion industry. And Andre, that conversation with Mark was so much fun. He is such a good guy. You've worked with him, haven't you?
Oh, yeah. And he's a friend of mine. He's so uber talented. I mean, he just has an innate gift. He is such a creator and a curator, I should say. Very talented gentleman. He is just, I have so many accolades for him and what he's done and the doors that he's opened in this business.
Yeah. Well, one of the highlights of the interview that I thought that really grabbed my attention right away when he said it, I love this phrase. He said, each gown is an elegant work of art, and also talked about retail as a theater experience. This is celebratory and how he had champagne at the end of it, but each gown is an elegant work of art. I love that. How do you feel about that? I know you have a real special interest in fashion.
Oh, yeah, it is. And I think that's why bridal salons and ateliers like Mark are so important, because people put so much thought and time and energy into selecting a wedding gown. And when you think about the fabrics, and I mean fabrics in a ethereal sense as well, that are woven through a wedding gown that becomes this piece of history for so many generations. Some are passed down. They're in museums. So it's just really an important ceremonial part of life. So when you think about all of the intricate details, I look at it as it is a museum piece. It's a piece of art. It's a work of art. And the detail and the time and the effort and the materials and the objects and the meanings that are put into a wedding gown, my gosh. It's a lot when you think about it.
And connected to that, it's such I think just because of even what you just said and Mark said, Mark also mentioned how, women are the brides who are more into fashion, just to begin with, feel more vulnerable because this piece of art, this defining dress, like culminates, as he said, their entire lives, into the day of representing who they are. It seems like so much pressure. What do you think about that? Do you run into that as well with the brides who you're working with?
Oh, sure. I mean, it is a lot of pressure. I mean, I think people, like I said, they thought about it for a long time, or some people haven't thought about it at all. And then it could be very overwhelming. So having a creative and a curator like Mark to help guide you through, and who knows this industry so well, and who can look at a bride and know what's going to look good on her, and how, and just kind of the mood of the evening and where it's going to be, and all of those details that go into determining the perfect piece of art, and the perfect gown. For sure, it is hard for brides to make a decision, because then they see things that they really love, and then they also see things that they're not so crazy about, and then there's a lot of peer pressure too, because a lot of other people think that you should have certain things. So it's a lot that goes into that.
How do you deal with that? If you're dealing with a bride who, has not yet gone like to a place like Mark's, or is just not, not able to go to that level of an atelier. How do you handle that aspect of dealing with your bride when it comes to everything you just said?
That's really, really a tough kind of thing. But that's why I work with people like Mark. Those are the secrets of the industry.
Right.
I'm
there you
able
go.
to direct them to Mark.
Right.
I'm able to direct them to people like that within the industry that work with different brides, and can even just act as a consultant that can talk you through that.
I was thinking, how he said, and dressing people is an art.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, this is not an easy thing. It's not like just anyone can sit there and say, hey, this is what, right? It's a real art just to that aspect of it.
Oh, yeah. It's a real art, and just knowing what's going to look good on the person, and the fabrics, how they flow. And if you're a square build frame, how that's going to lay versus you're a tall frame. All of those things, that takes a real gift and a real art. And if, knowing if you have on a chiffon gown in December, you may be too cold. Maybe you want a thicker fabric, or maybe you should add an underliner, or maybe we should add another layer of tulle. All of those things. That's like an art form. That's creating. Maybe you want to make it short for the reception, but you wanted to wear it long during the ceremony.
Well, and what about even having it match? Thinking about the venue, like he talked about, look, it's got to be appropriate for the venue. Whether it's the Pierre in New York City, or the Plaza, or it's a castle in in Portugal or something like that, right? I mean, that has a lot to do with it too. How do you deal with that?
That does. I mean, we determine the style of the wedding. You determine the style of the wedding by the location, the time of day, the level of formality. If you're doing, let's say, if you're doing a wedding at St. Patrick's Cathedral in New York, you want something that's really grand and ornate, and something that has a long train. You don't want to come in with a little short T-length, that's sometimes not appropriate for that kind of venue. And then if you're having your wedding reception at the Rainbow Room, maybe you do a change into something with a little bit more sparkle and pizzazz.
Yeah. It's interesting too. I was asking him, what is the best advice he could give to planners to give to their brides, once they have the dress, and he talked about the investment of having a dresser there the day of the wedding, a seamstress, who can handle any last minute emergencies, and also just the whole process of helping them, especially with how vulnerable they feel, which gives them peace of mind. What did you think of that?
I love that. And so many things happen on the wedding day. And that's how you're dealing with such an expert in this industry. From people popping buttons, to zippers not working, to hooks you can't find, to the bride or the bridesmaid and the mom that went with the bride to the bridal salon, forgetting how to do the bustle, and you not having anyone there to do it, or someone accidentally bumping into you and getting red wine on your gown. All of these things could happen. So having someone like a dresser who's making sure that you look perfect, and if there are any last minute alterations, they could do that. It's invaluable. And you pay so much for this piece of art. You want to make sure that it is what it lives up to its expectation. So I think it's awesome.
So let's say, I imagine you've had plenty of brides who don't do that. Either they don't have it in the budget or whatever. They just don't believe it's that important. I imagine you've been in situations where you've got brides who have something happen, like a stain or whatever, or a tear. Do you have any good stories? I mean, how do you approach this? Do you have anyone on your team who like really gets how to do that? What do you do if they don't bring a dresser of their own?
Yeah, no, we always have someone there. Most planners and designers, if they're good event planners and designers, they have an event kit, which is essentially a tool bag with, tied cloths and bobby pins and stick pins and staple guns and tape. So when you have these little accidents, you're prepared, or you're just kind of being fortuitous if these kind of things happen. And I usually always assign a person for the bridal party, for the ladies and the gents, to make sure that the women are getting dressed, and if they need anything, they're there to assist, and also to the gentlemen. Mm-hmm. And I think, may I add, I think it's important too to have that for the groom. A lot of grooms, they sweat a lot. They need an extra shirt or an undershirt. So many times groomsmen and fathers of the bride and groom, they don't have handkerchiefs and all of these kind of things, or they put on their tuxedo and the hem comes out of the pants. So it's important.
Gee, this is so interesting that you're saying that, because the entire time I'm not even thinking at all if there's a groom involved. I'm not even thinking about the groom. But you're right. That's a whole nother issue right there too.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Well, also kind of in a different topic that came up with Mark that I'd love to get your take on. I thought it was so interesting. I loved it. He talked about how changes in society always make it possible to go to the next level. What we were referring to was things like social media and the pressure that we all have now connected. I mean, we can of course use it as a wonderful tool, but it also adds a whole nother element that in some ways makes it more difficult what we're doing, and just not just social media, but any kind of a change in technology. And like, I personally am always resistant, and I'm trying to change that. I'm trying to change it and be more embracing of it right up front. Like Instagram, for example, I have been fighting it forever, and Facebook and all that. And just recently, Andre, man, I'm finally really getting what an incredible marketing tool is. And my whole vibe about it has changed. I'm really embracing it. Now I'm studying up on it and what I can do, especially with my entertainment background, and add it to the podcast. But the way he said it, that again, I want to say it again, changes in society always make it possible to go to the next level. He immediately embraces it and tries not to drag his feet, although he says he does, because whatever it is can take him to the next level. How are you dealing with this constant rate of change?
Oh my gosh, he made such good points. And I love what he said about surrounding yourself with young people and people who are not necessarily in your age demographic. Or I like to surround myself with people that know different things. If I know someone that's tech savvy, they may not be necessarily event savvy, but that's helpful as well. Because then you're up on all of the, latest tech marketing programs, and just, tech check-ins and all kind of things as it relates to the industry. So I loved when he said that. And he said just being youthful and making sure you are fortuitous on changes. A lot of times we do resist, but you don't want to be left behind. So that was impressive.
Yeah, before we wrap up, I want to say too, I want to add to that, it's interesting. I'm talking about embracing it, but at first I was basically hiring people, and I still do. I mean, I have a consultant for social media that's helping me. And, I like to, have younger people on my staff like you're talking about, but I found that I depended too much on them. And I started to realize, I realized how, not that it hurt my business, but I could have gone a lot further. And that's what hit me was, okay, I can't, I love what you're saying. Definitely have people on the staff to help you. But I realized that, in the end, I really need to get in on this myself.
Absolutely. Because it's your voice. It's your point of view. I love it. I love managing my own social media because it's my body of work. It's my feeling of the day. It's my point of view and my work in the end. And I love the opinions that the team has, and I love, the ideas that they have, because I find it also helpful. But I think you're right. It's Kushner Entertainment. I think people want to hear from Andy, and they want to see what you have, and because it's your body of work and your voice and feel.
Yeah, I love what you're saying about that. It really resonates with me when you said having your own point of view. I mean, someone else on our team or a professional can kind of get the feel of our brand and try to message it. But if you and I, as the owners of our own business, if we don't have our own touch on it, I can see how there could be a disconnect there.
Oh, for sure. A huge disconnect, because it doesn't have your vibe. When I come to you because you're a talented musician, you're a talented entertainer, you have great ideas and thoughts. And if it's somebody else providing you with all of the info, it's really not it's not you, and it doesn't feel authentic.
Yeah.
It just doesn't.
Well, I really appreciate this, Andre. That is, all the time we have for today. I want to thank everyone for listening, and I do want to give out first the information for Mark. His website is markingramatelier.com. His Instagram is Mark Ingram Bride, and you can get all of this in the show notes at theweddingbiz.com. And also, Andre, were you aware he came out with his own line recently at the time of this recording? It's called Mark Ingram by Valentini. And that's really exciting that he now has his own line.
That is so exciting. I'm so happy for him. And I learned that by listening. I did not know he had recently launched his own line. So I'm so excited for him.
Yeah, everyone's got to check it out. And there's some photos in the show notes of some of his works of art. I also want to give the website and social media handles for our wonderful guest co-host, Andre Wells. His website is events by Andre Wells. Again, eventsbyandrewells.com. His Instagram is events Andre Wells, and his Facebook is Andre Wells. And again, all of this will be in the show notes at theweddingbiz.com. If you haven't subscribed, be sure to do that so you get notifications of who's been released. And also, I want to mention that next week's episode is on Meryl Snow, who's a wonderful, very well-known consultant, trainer, especially with sales, speaker, event producer, designer. She runs think tank workshops. She came up with her own method that she talks about in her consulting work called the Triangle Method. So be sure to tune in next week. Also, do want to thank the sponsor for today, which is Kushner Entertainment, who you could find at kushnerentertainment.com. And Andre, man, thanks again. I always love talking to you.
I love talking to you, Andy. Thanks for including me.
Yeah, and everyone, be sure to check out, again, his interview, which was April 8th earlier this year. So we'll catch you next week on The Wedding Biz.